If you've ever poured your heart into caring for a potted plant, watering it regularly, giving it sunlight, even talking to it, and it still wilts, you're not alone. Every gardener, from first-timers to seasoned growers, has faced this frustrating mystery. The leaves fade, the growth stalls, and no matter how much fertilizer you add, the plant never seems quite right. In the first minute, let's address the truth that most gardeners overlook. It's not the water, not the light, and often not even the fertilizer that's holding your plants back. It's the soil life itself. Or more precisely, the lack of it. The cure? Humus. That dark, rich, crumbly material that nature creates through decomposition. What might just be the single most important yet misunderstood ingredient in plant health. Once you understand how humus works, you'll never see potted soil the same way again. It's not just a fertilizer substitute, it's the living engine that keeps roots breathing, nutrient cycling, and moisture balanced. The plants you thought were delicate or high maintenance often just lacked this one ingredient. Let's dig deep into why that's true, and how to bring humus back into your containers to restore strength, balance, and growth. Potted plants fail because container soil dies over time. You know, in nature, soil is alive. It's constantly replenished by fallen leaves, worm castings, and decaying roots that feed billions of microbes. These microorganisms, in turn, build humus, a stable form of organic matter that holds nutrients and moisture like a sponge. But in containers, that cycle is broken. Potting mixes are often sterile, and even those that start rich in organic matter quickly lose life with repeated watering and fertilizer use. What's left behind is, well, lifeless media that just can't hold nutrients or moisture, no matter how much you feed it. Without humus, container soil becomes something closer to dust than earth. Nutrients flush out with every watering, and roots are left swinging between feast and famine. Too much water one day, bone dry the next. The result? Weak, yellowed growth and roots that can't explore beyond a few inches. Fertilizer might give a short burst of green, but it doesn't rebuild the structure or biology that keeps plants healthy long term. That's where humus comes in. Humus is the biological backbone that revives soil and stabilizes growth. To understand why humus is the ultimate fix, it helps to know what it is and what it isn't. Humus isn't raw compost. It's what compost eventually becomes after microbes finish their work. A dark, stable, jelly-like substance made of carbon compounds that resist further decay. Well, it's not fertilizer in the usual sense. It doesn't feed plants directly. Instead, it feeds the soil ecosystem that makes nutrients available in perfect balance. Humus particles act like, miniature batteries, holding on to both nutrients and water and releasing them as roots need them. That means less leaching, less overwatering, and honestly, more even growth. It also buffers pH and binds toxic elements, keeping the soil chemistry stable even when fertilizers are added. Think of humus as the memory of good soil. It stores nutrients, moisture, and microbial life so that your plants always have what they need. When added to tired potting mixes, humus reawakens the living network that roots depend on. Plants grown in humus-rich soil tend to develop thicker stems, stronger roots, and deeper green leaves. They resist stress from drought and heat far better than those grown in synthetic or sterile mixes. The simple humus cure begins with rebuilding living soil right in your pots. So, how do you actually bring humus back to life in container soil? The process is simpler than most gardeners realize, and it can be done without dumping or replacing all your soil. Start by loosening the top few inches of your potting mix with your fingers or a hand fork. You want to open it enough for air to reach below the surface. Then add a layer of organic material that will naturally decompose into humus. Well-aged compost, leaf mould or vermicompost work best. So, the ratio should be roughly 1 part organic material to 3 parts existing soil for smaller pots. Once mixed, you want to water it lightly, not to soak, but just to moisten it enough that you know microbes can wake up and start processing. To speed up humus formation, introduce beneficial microorganisms by adding a few tablespoons of worm castings or, say, a small splash of compost tea. This brings in the bacteria and fungi that actually transform organic matter into humus over the coming weeks. For larger containers or raised beds, you can take this a step further by layering. Place a thin mat of rough organic material, like, shredded leaves or straw, an inch below the soil surface. As roots grow downward, they encounter this organic layer, and microbial activity begins to create humus right where it's needed most. This method mimics the natural leaf litter cycle of forests and keeps your container's soil constantly regenerating. The beauty of humus is that once you build it, it sustains itself. Every time you add a little organic matter to your pots, whether from compost, worm castings or decayed mulch, you're feeding the soil microbes that maintain that humus cycle. The goal isn't to add more fertilizer, it's to keep your soil alive so nutrients recycle naturally. Watering practices play a big role here. It's best to avoid drenching your containers daily unless it's really necessary, as overwatering flushes out nutrients and stresses those helpful microbes. Instead, try to water deeply but infrequently, letting the top inch dry out just a bit before you water again. This helps maintain proper oxygen levels and encourages microbial balance, which is honestly so important for healthy plants. If you use liquid feeds, it's a good idea to choose organic options like fish emulsion or compost tea, which, by the way, feed both the plants and the microbes. Chemical fertilizers, while convenient, tend to burn through humus faster by disrupting microbial communities. The more biological your approach, the longer your humus will last, and the healthier your soil will remain. One powerful maintenance trick is to periodically sprinkle fine compost or humus-rich soil directly onto the surface of your pots every few months. Rain and watering will slowly pull it down into the root zone, refreshing the microbial layer naturally. Over time, you'll notice your soil becoming darker, spongier, and easier to water. Signs that humus is doing its work. Healthy humus means healthy plants, permanently. When gardeners switch to humus-based care, the change is, well, dramatic. Water holds better, nutrients stop leaching, and plants bounce back from stress quickly. Instead of constantly treating symptoms, yellow leaves, drooping stems, nutrient burn, you address the root cause, dead, structureless soil. Humus restores the living cycle that makes any soil resilient. The beauty of this approach is that it applies to any plant and any setting, from herbs in kitchen windowsills to large container trees. Once your soil has humus, you'll find yourself watering less often, fertilizing less frequently, and watching your plants thrive longer between repottings. It's one of those old, almost forgotten truths of gardening that separates, the quick-fix growers from those who build lasting fertility. So, the next time your potted plants start to struggle, just skip the synthetic fertilizers and bottled soil boosters. Start feeding the soil itself. Build humus, and honestly, you'll never have to guess what's wrong again. If this deep dive into the humus cure helped you see your potted plants differently, well, don't let it end here. Subscribe to Botanical Bliss for more field-tested growing wisdom, grounded in soil biology and traditional gardening science. And share this video with other growers who are tired of watching their plants fade for no clear reason. The cure isn't complicated, it's living right beneath your roots.